do that again.
Happy New Year!
Wow. Well, we hereby call this meeting of the Fangirls Club to order. I'm Hayley.
And I'm Brielle.
Hi, Brielle.
Hi. This week, for our first video of the year, we're going to fangirl over Crescent City.
We're finally through with Crescent City 1, House of Earth and Blood, and we also have read the second book, House of Sky and Breath. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking through
this big boy.
all things CC1.
CC1.
And I'm excited.
Yeah, so this will be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back into does this count as a BOOOOk Club?
It's a baby BOOOOk Club, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just doing like one quick episode per Crescent City book.
Yeah.
I think we've just decided right now. Okay, great.
Yes.
Cool.
So you just want to do part 2 next week?
I think so. I think there's more to say.
Okay.
We just
We
keep.
could always keep going.
Yeah.
Because they are giant.
They're big, and we are trying to really get through the Maasverse.
I can't believe we have one more left. I'm very sad.
We were dead set on reading all of them in 2024, but life happens, you know? We practically did.
Yeah.
And so for 2025, we're finishing off the Maasverse and we're moving on. So today we're going to be talking about all things Crescent City.
Yeah.
And our thoughts on the book, our ratings of the book, and so on and so forth.
Yay.
But first, we have to do our fangirl moments of the holiday break because it's been a couple of weeks. So what was your fangirl moment of the holiday break?
Is it lame if I say Crescent City?
No, not at all.
I was shocked that I did it. I was hoping that I would maybe get through this in the whole month of December just because there was a lot going on. I was there's just going to be a busy month. I flew through this first one.
You crushed it. I know.
And then I got too far in this one to the point that I was like, I need to hurry up and finish it in the next couple days before I leave to fly home.
Yeah.
Because I wanted enough book available to read on my flights.
Yes, exactly.
But I was like, I'm too far in the back now. So I rushed to finish this one, and that was not hard. The ending
Oh, my God.
was fantabulous.
Uh-huh.
And then so on my flight, on the first, I got to start the second one, so that was really fun. But yeah, so that's mainly all I've really focused on. And honorable mention is, ladies and gentlemen, you can now purchase and or rent Wicked at home.
Yep.
And I will be insufferable, so.
I know. I cannot wait.
And happy
I haven't done it yet.
2025, the year of Wicked for Good.
Wicked for Good. It's officially Wicked for Good year. Only a few short months.
Kind of.
I'm so excited.
What about you?
Well, I binged watched the second season of Squid Game that just dropped a few days ago, and it was really good. There's a twist this season that was totally unexpected, and it paid off. Like, it was so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was such a great twist, and it really kept the season going. It was awesome. Great season. Started off a little slow because, well, I think you watch this show, as horrible as it is, like, for the games, like, to watch the actual game scenes, and that doesn't happen for a while. Like, you're getting a lot of exposition, what's been happening for 3 years since the first season. So
I'm excited to see it.
it's really good.
Yay.
And then, my second one, which you'll love, because we didn't actually talk about this, I saw Nosferatu the other night, and I loved it.
I can't wait
10
to see
out of
it.
10. I will be watching it every spooky season from now on.
Yay. You said it was very midnight massy.
It was very midnight mass, but with that old school old school gothic horror monster movie.
I think you'll love that the Halloween special Marvel released a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's in black and white, right?
They release both options now.
that's
you can
right.
watch it in color, but I highly recommend. I've already
Wolfman or something.
a night, Werewolf by Night.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it. It's only an hour. It's like a short.
I forgot
films.
that came out.
Very. I feel like very similar to that. Not as like spooky, but like that old school monster.
Right. I love that.
Mysterious vibe. But yeah.
I can't wait for you to see this movie because
By Night? Yeah, whatever.
Because Willem Dafoe is in it.
Oh, yes.
And his character is chef's kiss.
Really?
He carries that movie. And he's so funny in it without meaning to. I can't even describe how good he is in this movie. He's so Willem Dafoe, but in the most perfect way. But his performance is so good. But I loved his character. And that's that alone made the movie.
Fun. Okay, cool. Yeah, so, I can't wait to see that.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah, the second everyone started talking about it online, I was like, oh my God.
I wish it had come out during Halloween season.
Spooky.
That would have been awesome. Yeah. But oh my God, I hope they play it at the graveyard screenings next year. That'd be cool. I will be looking out for those tickets for sure. So yeah.
Yay.
And then during the holiday, did you receive any fangirly type gifts?
Well, we still need to exchange gifts. And I know for a fact we both definitely got each other very fangirly gifts.
Yeah.
So that's a given. We'll do that.
I can't wait for
probably next week or so. What did I mean,
I saw a ton of it in your room
yesterday. I know. I literally want to make one of those videos that's tell me that you blah, blah, blah without telling me.
Yeah.
And it just will literally be tell me that all you did was talk about Wicked all year without telling me. Because everyone in my family just, I don't know, they found anything that said Wicked and are like, Merry Christmas.
That's why you also need to do one of those rich kid what I got for Christmas vlogs, but just Wicked stuff.
All Wicked.
You have to do that. That's so funny.
I got the, my mom was making fun of me because one of the things that I was like, oh, you could get this. I would definitely love it. And she was like, why is this even a thing? I got the Bays.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Backpack.
Uh-huh.
That's
the Wicked backpack?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. No way.
And literally the only Wicked thing on it is the lining on the inside is very transparent. You can barely see it. Kind of says Wicked. And the zipper is a W. And she's like, why is this Wicked? And I was like, I love it.
It's perfect.
It's really cute.
You do need to do a haul.
I know.
Wait, you have to do a haul. That's so good.
I know. Everyone was like, I don't know, here's something Wicked. And I was like, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Next, please.
What about you?
Well, there's this burger chain down in Texas and in other states in the South called Whataburger. And I got some Whataburger pajamas. They're bright orange with the Whataburger logo and a bunch of little shapes. I almost did. I had them pulled out of my drawer and I was like, not for this. So that I would say, because I'm not from Texas. Mm-hmm. I was introduced to Whataburger. So therefore I think that constitutes me as a fangirl of Whataburger for some reason. I got the first 3 books in the Mistborn trilogy. Well, the Mistborn trilogy. First 3 of what were recommended to me as the best books to start out the Bryan Sanderson universe. So I'll read those eventually.
Yay.
So yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. It is 2025. And it's time to give our Crescent City House of Earth and Blood official rating. We each do one. We're our own independent people, but
I don't think so.
It's for me, upon reflection, it's a 5-star read.
Okay.
It really is. I started out with a 4.5 and I'm like, why am I trying to be pretentious?
Yeah.
It's just, I just loved it. So it's a 5-star.
Yeah, why am I
it's
trying to be
5 stars.
Picky?
I absolutely loved it.
I can't wait to finish the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Read all of her books, and then we'll
do a full ranking.
We'll do a video. Mm-hmm. Just talking about our full rank. I think we should do a full SJM video would be fun too.
Of course.
In the next month or so. Yeah, to see our full rankings and everything, because I'm curious where I would end up putting this. But yeah,
don't think about that.
No, I know. I'm saying because I was trying to think of what are the other ones that I did in my head. I was like, what other ones did I did list of 5 stars? Yeah, I think I would put this as a 5-star too.
Absolutely. It's just got everything. And it reminded me of Twilight a little bit. So, not just because they're werewolves or whatever, and there's a bunch of different creatures,
we'll talk about.
We really just started off with ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, and coming to this, it's the first, modernized urban fantasy that we've read, and so just because of that, and Twilight being set in the present day, Maybe that's what kind of made me feel
Mm-hmm.
those vibes.
I loved it.
I absolutely loved it. Bryce as a main character. She's so different from Aelin and Feyre, but yet just as amazing.
See the similarities.
You also see the similarities, yeah.
I liked meeting her and coming into her story at the time that you do, and like seeing her at this like low point and kind of meeting her that way.
Mm-hmm.
So then over time, as she's coming back to herself, that's how we get to meet her over time.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, in some stories when you just meet the main character, you're like, okay, this is the main character. You really start to learn their personality very quickly on, like certain things about them, and you get comfortable with them quickly. So we did that with her in the beginning, but then learning that's like, oh, this isn't how she usually is. Mm-hmm. She has this traumatic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it gets to take us through this entire book of like going along on that journey with her to like relearn.
Not
and
even
like refind herself.
We're meeting like true Bryce for the first time at the end of the book. Because like in the beginning, she's like she is like partying all the time, and not that she's not living up to her full potential or whatever, but do you know what I mean? Like she's not being herself. She's also running.
Also hiding from everyone.
She's hiding
who she is.
hiding and running from a lot of other things. And then obviously what happens with Danica changes her, and she goes into a much darker side of herself, but then at the end, like, she overcomes all of that. And same with Hunt, I think, is like we just meet both of them at these very like low places. Hunt has been, I would say, in a lower place, but
he's also old,
as always. He's a lot older,
as they usually are.
But I loved that theme of them really meeting on the same page, kind of, and meeting each other and building each other up the whole way through. Yeah. It's so sweet. A little cheesy at times, but I absolutely love it.
But I didn't ever feel like
cringy.
Yeah.
No.
Especially at least in this first one, like it.
Because he was so hard in the beginning. He was so like cold, and of course. So
but
anytime
she was too. She was terrible.
Oh yeah.
Like they were both just so.
Yeah, vicious to each other. The tension was like super palpable from the very beginning. Yeah. And I obviously loved that.
Of course, the scene when they like first meet in that alleyway.
I know.
And she's like bleeding out and dying, but like, what is like the sentence of like, she just stared at him. Yeah. And I'm like, here we go.
And that, immediately. And yet it is still so like, exciting to read their whole story front to back.
Yeah. We get a lot of his POV too, which I really liked. It didn't just feel like a Bryce story, even though it is overall. We still really got both of their POVs. Yeah. And that's what I kind of liked seeing. Not just like the journey of their relationship and them growing through hers, but like also seeing his. And it made us understand the relationship together even more. Of like we'll talk about some of our favorite points, but like that moment at the end that I told you, like I cried.
I know.
But I was like, obviously we wouldn't have gotten that if it was only her POV.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that the emphasis on his POV is way stronger than other books that we've read and other stories. Yeah. So that was really fun. But the whole, the plot was very singular. So it was easier to kind of grasp everything that was happening, especially with this huge world that we're being introduced to. Yeah. And all the politics involved. So it was nice that we had this like one really awesome murder mystery that we cared about immediately. Yeah. Obviously. She just wrote that all in so well and set it up so well. So we could focus on one singular storyline and gradually kind of piece together the world.
How small that felt.
Yeah. And it felt intimate, almost like a noir-esque murder mystery. It was so cool. Yeah. Yeah, and all there were so many like twists and turns and surprises.
Yeah, it really I loved that at every point you're following these two, and then like over time obviously ended up being a few more people, and then Rune joins, and like so you're starting to get a little bit more spread out as she like forms her team to help her. But overall it's like still this small little group. Yeah. So we're getting each of their POVs, but they're all in on the same information. So at times when they're like, oh my God, I think this person or blah 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 blah, and then so we're like, oh my god, they're like starting to figure it out, and then when they learn that's not actually it, then they have like a curveball here. So then the whole time we're just following their like then learning all the new information and like bringing up new people that are now sketchy because they had no idea before. And then like, you know, I love the whole, even in the second book it kept coming up of like, because Hunt is in the 33rd, and then because Rune is in the Ox, like, and because Bryce worked with Jessica, like they all have access to all these cameras.
Yeah.
That was such a cool way to end up learning external information.
And it didn't feel forced, you know, or like too easy.
Yeah.
You know?
But it was like cool. Like, multiple times they're all like, oh, let's watch the city footage.
Yeah.
It ended up being really helpful to like be able to have them learn more information.
And it's good to set this up with these characters, like having access to all this and being powerful and whatnot, because you have to believe going into something like this that these people can overthrow, you know, whatever big bad is coming our way, because they set this world up to be so, I mean, there are slaves and like it's just a really bad situation in this world. And so you're like, you really have to believe that all these people have what it takes to get to do something about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she sets it up so well, and like everyone has a role. And right, what you were saying about like Hunt's POV of Bryce, but I also love that, right, all the characters, all the other POVs, well, have a different point of view of the situation at hand, and they might have different opinions on like a suspect. Like Bryce really thinks it's Briggs, but someone else comes in and they're like, I know this information about Briggs that like is going to sway you. So then we're back to the drawing board.
Or they each in some capacity are leaning towards trying to get to the same outcome, or are working on the same problem, but they all have different reasons as to why.
Yes.
Which is really fun. So then when you jump, you know, when Rune starts becoming more and more involved, you start getting his POVs, and then like, oh, but now he wants to be in on it because of this.
Yeah.
And like he's just trying to get closer to Bryce, but like she's still really pissed off about something we don't know yet.
I know.
Like, but he's trying, like,
yeah.
It's really cool to like, it kind of feels special as you're reading it, and you're like, oh, I'm in on certain things that Bryce doesn't know.
Yeah.
Or like certain things were really funny.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The world.
And the world of Crescent. Yeah. And again, we are jumping into this urban fantasy, which is not something that we have been used to being in. And I was hesitant to go in. I was definitely hesitant to read these books because I've like somehow decided it's like high fantasy or nothing, you know, or true fantasy, whatever.
I was excited to see all I really kind of knew of that, the very basic things about it, but also people saying that it's very like, take it for what it is, obviously, but think like Zootopia.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was like, wait, that's such a good little tidbit to think of going into it. Of like, I think if I didn't even know that at all, I've been like even more confused.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of like still kept it high fantasy.
Yeah.
With these creatures and animals and all of these things, but it's literally just modern day.
I liked that. And the tech was recognizable enough. Like they have cell phones and printers and, you know, all these things. But I think that she does a good job of not putting too much emphasis on the modern day technology while also obviously heavily needing it throughout the whole book. Yeah. Because I do think saying that, I mean that it would bother me, I think, if there was too much
tech always.
I think she balances out with magic perfectly, I guess, is what I decided.
That's what I've decided.
Like the magic system is really cool.
Yeah.
But everyone does something so different also in this book.
The biggest thing that I would say though is like, because there are so many, this is like even more widespread and interbred and all of these things, even more than like Throne of Glass. We thought there's so many. There's the Fae, but then there's
witches.
Oh, but then now there's also like humans in this part of the world, and then now there's half Fae, and then there, you know, we started to meet some animals at some points and different things like that. That I was surprised reading this. I didn't think there would be even more
Oh, yeah.
in this. I thought it was going to be, you know, Akatar is mostly just fae. Is that literally it? Like
fae and humans.
Yeah.
Shift, yeah, but they're all a form of fae, other than.
But this is so.
Yeah, there's so many different
widespread
races and species and what have you. It certainly didn't bother me at all.
No, I was
loved
surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
I think with the urban fantasy, I didn't expect it to be so fantastical with so many creatures.
Fantasy just literally dropped in present day.
In New York City.
Which I think it's sort of the opposite for some stories. I don't know. More utopian than Zootopian.
Zootopia? I loved it.
Me too. Yeah, I love the world. I mean, I'm still confused, and we're about to read the third book, and the map is only of Lunathian, so, and that's where we're at, obviously, in this book, but the map helps with where things are in the city, but they do talk a lot about Midgard and the rest of this universe.
I still don't really know what Midgard is.
Which how important is that? Maybe not now.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to that's the one thing that I struggled with, for sure.
What is a city? What is a state?
Yeah.
Or a country? Or like what is
right.
And they talk about islands, but then they talk about
yeah.
But then it's hard because now there's portals, but there's also other realms.
And all of this is known about, and what's the Northern Rift, and like all of these things that are
like why I don't the
solar system.
Yeah. There's a lot of things.
The Autumn King, like
there's also the Underking, but that's not hell.
Right.
And then there's the Bone Quarter, which is not also hell, but like you can casually travel to the Bone Quarter.
I do think the First Light stuff is very interesting.
Yes.
I love that whole system of making their energy. It's
kind of fucked up.
It's fucked up.
Weird.
Super fucked up, but I think it's so clever. Like it's such an interesting, deep-rooted like problem for them to have.
Yeah. That you're born and at some point in life you always know if you want to do the drop, you have to give the first part of your power over to it's not even the government. I don't know what it like
the word just
yeah it's odd.
It's so weird.
One time she was using like her phone. Oh no, she was using her coffee machine, and she's like, I wonder whose first light is powering my coffee machine. And I was like, that's weird.
It's so weird, but so like it's so interesting though to me. I like that.
It's weird to read the story and thinking it's so modern, so urban, but there's slaves.
Oh yeah.
And there's but like I feel like because even then when you get to like Hunger Games, it's supposed to be the future.
Yeah.
But it's so run down. And those are the people that are lower class in these districts. But with this, it's like they're all intermingled still. They're not all just completely divided.
Yeah.
But like it's also you're a slave, but like you also have a job, like you also have to go to work.
Right.
It was an odd concept at first to like really understand the division of what some of that even means.
I don't think and I don't think you're meant to. I don't think you're meant to understand. It's just like, wait, what? And then as it goes on, you start to learn. And I think that's what makes it so poignant to have that be happening in this modern fantasy. It just shows how long these powers that be have been in charge. What's it going to take to
like it's funny to like
end.
They're talking about like slaves and all of these magic and all this stuff, and then but they're like, let's go to get pizza. Yeah. And every once in a while I'm like, whoa, okay, hold on. Yeah. It's so funny.
I know, but that's what's fucked up about it too.
Yeah, it just seems so casual.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they've all just accepted it, and it's all just that's how it is
until now.
Well, then they start going into certain things like there have been rebellions before, and like the sprites you learn.
I know. You learn that without even having read anything in the book. If you just read about the houses,
which is
fire
interesting.
Sprites were cast out of all houses because of
that's great. Yeah.
And that's what you learn about Hunt too and his rebellion and again it's like this old ass
the Umbra Mortal. eldest
angel who has lived this whole other very tragic life.
Mm-hmm.
And
then was like tortured for a very long time.
Yeah,
and now he just like goes to work. That's what some of it was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, but it is believable. I do
Yeah.
think, you read it and I'm like, yeah,
You know.
his pain is so deep.
I know.
Poor Hunt. But yes,
Boy,
I loved all the beings. Specifically for me, witch healers are like the coolest thing to be reading about.
Coming off of Throne of
Glass, yes. I do think, like, and I've just thought of this, like, it's interesting to think of people who have been with the books since they started coming out
Mm-hmm.
and reading Throne of Glass first and then jumping from ACOTAR to this back to Throne of Glass, like, I have yet to discover someone who has read every single book as they've come out. Because that's what I'm trying to say is, starting with ACOTAR, going to Throne of Glass, going to Crescent City makes so much sense to me because of how big the worlds are and how many, different people there are in all of this. And, we go from having no witches to now, like, witch healers specifically. And they have a very specific role and they're in society and all this.
Love,
it's cool.
And I would love to see if I can find any, I don't know if she's ever talked about it before or anything, but she loves to switch up her interpretation of witches specifically in all three series. So yeah, in ACOTAR, they're never actual characters,
just, like, mentioned,
but they're rumored.
Yeah.
And they're like greatly feared. And everyone, everyone's like, Nesta's a witch. Like, she's evil. Don't go near her. But like, there's vague references of witches. And then you go in the Throne of Glass, and then eventually you get to this point where, like, you start meeting witches. You meet Baba first. And you're like, oh, this is a witch? What the hell is it? Like, she's decrepit and old and creepy and scary. But then they're all so
different.
And then you start to meet more. Yeah. And that ends up being a huge character and type of character in the book. And then you also start to meet all the healers after that. And then now for the third one that you start to meet witch healers is... it's just funny that she always has switched up witches.
Right.
Specifically.
Yeah, exactly. Hypaxia is, I want more. I want more of her. And I just always want more witches, but.
She ended up being.
That specifically was like a really cool part. And I have to tell everyone the theory that I had. But I thought of this immediately, and it could still be true. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know how the different worlds work. But I just immediately read when I heard about the witches being healers. I'm like, oh my God, they must be descendants of Manon and Irene's children. Like, Manon and Dorian have children, and then Kale and Irene have children, and they make their children get married.
They make their children
have kids.
It's forced.
And they become witch healers.
Yeah, I love the idea that, like, they're also, all of the witches are the healers. Yes. We have not met a witch that's not.
Yes.
And we haven't met any other random healers.
We know the Hind is a witch.
But she didn't, like, get witch.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, she didn't.
She was outcast because she took after her father's lineage too much. But yeah, I thought that was interesting
because they're descendants of Irene and Manon's children.
Those are the only healers and the only witches.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. This is what's going to happen in this Manon and Dorian spin-off series. Because it's going to all be about the training of the wyverns at his castle, and those trainers are going to become the witch healers. Anything else about the world? The world?
No, it was hard.
The political structure is hard.
It was very hard to learn what the hell the difference was of the wolf pack. But then there's also the 33rd, which what does that number mean? Are there 30 other different units?
The Hind, Hound, Hellhound, and all them are from a different number too. They have a number I can't remember.
But they're part of the Triari, and we're like, okay, what is
Elite
that?
Angel Force.
But and then it just started to.
And they serve the archangels, but everyone serves the Asteri.
Yes.
But there's also an Autumn King, but there's also an Under King, and a River Queen, and a Viper Queen, and
it kind of feels the thing that I had a hard time of understanding of like, okay, they don't really feel like kings and queens, and if they overall aren't the one, like they would still have to report to the archangels, who then still report to the Asteri. It just felt like,
I guess that's the point, though.
Yeah.
To keep everyone in line. They just give people titles.
To make them feel special.
Yeah.
Because then you meet Prince Rune and you're like, oh, he's the prince. But then you're like, but he leads the Ox.
Yeah. That's like
and
his
I was
little
like, okay, well, what do they do? So that's like the police force, but for Fae.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 33rd are all of those.
Angels?
Is there another name? The 33rd what? It's just 33rd.
I don't know. Yeah.
Is all of those numbers, all of those things, are those angels only?
I think so.
Yeah. I see. There's little things like that when you're first starting to read it all. I was like,
I know.
Yeesh.
Well, yeah, because then, but the archangels are all angels. So, right. Their units are going to be, yeah, right. The division is interesting.
So is that why the Fae hate the angels so much? Because overall the archangels are like the most, besides the biggest bad boys, the archangels are the next. So is that why everyone's like doesn't like angels? Because
it's like they all have their own police forces, but yet they're all working at the same time on the same cases. It's
sometimes,
right.
I think it depends like where the crime happens in the city. But then again, it's like this is only this one city.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh.
I know. Yes, I think there more to hone in on with that as we continue to read, because I think I get it. Like at least I know who's who and where they're from. You know what I mean? It
took me a little bit to remember. That was the other thing of like there's all the other animals and types and shifters. Yeah. And all shifters don't even have to be Fae. They can be an angel can be a shifter. And that took me a second to even. Yeah. And then so when you start to meet even more characters, I couldn't remember who anyone was at first. So the first half of the book is hard of learning politically wise and the government. But then in that, remembering, okay, Flynn and Declan, I kept forgetting they were Fae.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to keep reminding myself that. Or like...
And you forget, you also forget they're like essentially royals too.
Yeah,
Flynn at least, which is funny.
Lord Bryce.
Because they just all, and I love this, they're able to so easily reject their roles, which isn't the case in a lot of stories. Like, when you're royal, you have to abide. You know, it's like the structure is way more set in stone. Yeah. Whereas like these guys, like Rune especially, he just does whatever the fuck he wants. He still, but like while still having to he has to play this game and like keep the Autumn King at bay. It's a weird relationship.
And it's funny to like they're still like living in this like frat house, but like he leads the Ox. So like I don't know, and I love that they all still live together.
I know, he loves it too
because they all just want to hang out. Yeah, and I texted you one time when I was reading that Flynn and Declan remind me of Finn and Colin from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, Logan's frat bros.
And then Logan.
Totally.
Rune seems very Logan-y sometimes too.
He can, yeah.
But I was like, so in my head, that's like kind of who I picture, like these two obnoxious British boys, and that's kind of.
I see that too.
But also mixed with like the Weasley twins.
Yes, I think I've pictured the same thing.
I don't know why. Just because there's like the way they joke.
They're like
so funny.
Twin-esque.
They're so cute.
They bounce off each other. Yeah. Yes. I love all the characters.
Yeah.
And all of the stories are interesting to me.
Do some top moments?
You want to do some top moments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's discuss each of our loose top 3 moments, because like there are actually so many insane, crazy moments.
Yeah.
But 3 of our favorites.
Yeah.
And I think 1 is going to be broad for both of us probably.
Okay.
So we'll start with that one.
Okay.
Just the theme of the photo taking between Bryce and Hunt and what it ultimately leads to at the end of the book when she like first takes his phone and like snaps a picture. And I remember that for me gasping and be like, oh my God. Cause he was just so, and I'm like already forgotten how rigid and like cold he was.
I know, now he's all jokey and cute. I know.
He's had the most growth, like most tangible growth of anybody. And it's just such a sweet thing between the two of them that is so different. Like it sets them apart. And
yeah, her like judging him when she first sees it because the only photos he has is literally like bodies.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, well, sometimes I have to show my coworkers. And she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I know. And he see like childish is not the right word.
Yeah.
Because obviously not. And he's like, how old? But how is he so much older than her and has gone through so much but is inexperienced?
Yeah.
So him like that to him, he was like, the only photos on his phone is like cut up body
strictly
parts
work related
that he needs to show Isaiah sometimes. Like, and he doesn't see an issue with that.
No pleasure in anything.
Yeah, she's like, you don't have any like pictures of like your pizza or like flowers.
Yeah, she saw his room and he just has nothing in there and just no pictures on the walls and all of that. And that's how he's been for so many years. And it's just like I love them doing that through the whole book.
That was a good example of like the technology.
Yep,
of
definitely.
Like, that was a constant in the whole book, but it didn't feel overpowering or weird. It directly helped their relationship and ended up being such a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so leading into that of like that moment and then what all those photos end up becoming is
very sad.
I don't know if I would. Yeah, I guess I don't know if I called it a top moment because I was down. But that was the part I cried at.
Because it all just like made sense. Like it all came to fruition. Like, of course, we'd see these in this manner at some point.
Yeah, because it came right after this moment that we felt like, oh my God, did he just betray her? And then we were gonna be mad at him for a second.
Yeah.
But then you end up discovering like it was a little bit different than she interpreted it. Or ended up learning, and then you see him in this lowest point because he didn't even realize it at first. Right. It took him looking at this extremely sad slideshow. Like, you know when your phone creates like a...
Was it Micah who brought that in? Who was it?
No.
I can't remember.
It was
It was Sandriel?
Yeah. It was like
I'm just imagining her like rolling a classroom projector in there, like pressing play.
One of those like old dirty white ones. Like... She had to pull down the whiteboard.
Oh my God. And she's just printed slides of That's how I picture it. But I was also just bawling my eyes out.
That was,
so good. Oh,
God, just like the descriptions of it all that he was seeing in real time, both of them. And that's how he learned that both of them ended up probably feeling this way.
Exactly.
Because he can see not only just him slowly coming to life, but then he looking back on the past few months, seeing the photos from her in the beginning of like, he didn't realize how just terrible she looked.
Yeah.
And he was like, wait, oh my God. And they both like brought each other back to life.
But, and I think she says this in the book, but it's like something that Sandriel thought was going to break him actually was the thing that like helped and saved him and made him keep going. So good. And it led right to that just most epic ending of a book ever. I was so shocked.
It was phenomenal.
So good. What's another one of your top memorable moments?
That was definitely one of them. Holy cow.
Oh yeah.
I know you're gonna say one, so I'm gonna try and not say that.
The one I bookmarked?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Oh, one of the shooting range scene.
Wait, I was about to say that too. That was so good. So well written.
Absolutely killed me because that was the first moment. We haven't seen her done anything badass yet.
Yeah.
And for us to not even know yet and we had no idea, so we didn't see that coming.
Yep.
But the boys knew. So when she was like, okay, like, fuck it, step aside. And even Flynn was like, oh, shit. And he, like, rubbed his hands together. He was like, because they were so excited because they know
how good
from going to school with her and everything
Yeah.
like that. They knew. And I loved the plot line of her stepfather, her dad,
Randall, yeah.
being this iconic
Yeah.
war hero. And that even Hunt knew of him.
Yeah.
So it gave him some additional background into Bryce ahead of time.
Yeah.
So him watching in real time, like her going over to the gun, and right before that, before they go into the shooting range, he like fixes the earmuffs on her and like makes sure they're like on right, because he didn't know.
Yeah.
And wouldn't think that she knew how to put them on.
Yeah.
So she let him do it, and he was like, why did she seem like annoyed or whatever? And then so she walks up to the gun, like flicks off the safety and everything, and then he like realizes it in real time, like,
oh shit,
her dad is like, oh my god, no way, of course she's gonna know how to do this. And then she kills it. And just the writing of that moment of her like kind of then looking over at him and feeling unsure, because this is usually the moment that any other male is like intimidated or will step away and act weird, and instead he gets up and like picks up the gun, like doesn't even look at the gun yet, doesn't even look at the Jesus Christ.
The target?
Yes. Doesn't even look, because he's just staring at her when he sets it up. And then he looks right at it and he shoots directly into the hole she already shot. And then he looks right back at her, and they were both like.
And that was the moment I knew.
They were both like, oh.
Yeah. That was such an intense scene and so unexpected. I loved it.
That was definitely one of my favorite parts of the whole book.
Yep.
In general, because I liked that the other boys were there too, because that was like a moment of like, Hunt has been a little unsure of like her relationship with Flynn the whole time,
right?
So I liked that he was there, and then that Rune got to see all of it, because then he was like, wait, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, so much was said in that one scene,
but not that much dialogue.
And
it was
like you were saying, it gave you like a visual of just how badass Randall is. You got to know a little bit more about him without him having to even be there. And I love, in this book specifically, I think what sets it apart is Hunt and Bryce have so many opportunities to get to know one another more casually. Because they're just both, well, he's not, but she's just sort of flippant and like kind of silly at times. And so that just leads them into these like.
And it doesn't have to be so serious.
Yeah.
The whole thing's not war. The whole thing's not just murder.
Not war or she has no interest in training or becoming, whoever she's meant to be, all that. She just wants to figure out what happened to her friend, and she's stuck with this guy, so she might as well, get to know him. And so, along with like the shooting range scene, which was fairly lighthearted, also a lot of good sexual tension, but the scene where he finds her Jelly Jubilee is definitely pops out as one of the best parts of the book. It's right in the middle, and they're still sort of teetering by the middle of the book of like, do they get along or do they not? I think this is kind of that scene that is a turning point for him, especially. Well, for both of them, because she appreciates how he reacts to finding it. Like, he's not, he doesn't make fun of her, all of this. Like, he just thinks it's so delightful. I love that. He's just charmed by it. And I love that.
I also think it just like really takes him aback that she has no filter.
Right. Oh,
and is so unprofessional / almost childish at times. And I think it just sometimes like still takes him aback, like throughout the whole book of like, he's like, oh, right. Like, she has no issue calling out the fact that she can realize that I probably thought it was a vibrator. Like,
yeah, right. She does just say it like it is.
Yeah. And I think it's still like, that's why he thinks it's so funny that he just like didn't even expect her to even say that.
Yeah.
Is then why I think like then his guard is just down, because
what else are you supposed to do in that moment if she literally called you out that hard?
It's just exactly. And just like moments of them watching Sunball and like the backward, I love the description of like the backwards hat and all that stuff. And just like those little tiny, there's so many little moments for them. And it starts off right in the beginning, like when when he's following her and she goes to the nail salon to get her nails done, and he's so furious.
He's so mad.
I was scared for her. Like, he was so furious, and she came out and let him think, like, for the longest time that she was literally just getting her nails done. And then, obviously, we learned that it was for a purpose. She was talking to the nail tech who knew, she thought knew something about Danica. And so, I think that's when we really first learned her character in all this. And how she's going to mess with him, because it's just so good.
Funny.
I love their dynamic.
It's a really good mix. I think they're the perfect mixture of Reese and Farrah and Aelin and Rowan. But then it's also modern. So there's a part of it that I feel, obviously, we can just relate to even more.
Yeah.
So that's like where I feel giddy about them. Like, it feels so natural and easy because there's modern day things that they can talk about, and or like when they watch all the like
the reality shows
together or reality shows, and it just seems so, they're talking about sports, and like it just feels obviously for what it's based off of, like feels reminiscent of those two, but then it's this whole other thing that obviously we can even relate to that you couldn't with the other ones.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little like familiar, and that could be the writing, I guess, but also just truly felt like they were a totally new set of characters as well. Like I was very invested in them getting to know each other and as individuals too. But yeah, at the same time, I was like, you can't help but compare at times.
It like, this is like what I wanted out of Air and Fire, I feel like.
Yeah.
Of like almost forced proximity, like forced in some capacity. But it was just so well drawn out.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh
my God.
Like,
it was a great slow burn of like all kinds of different things.
Yeah, because then they kept getting pissed off at each other, and they're purposely trying to piss each other off.
It was a lot of like back to square one for a while.
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny.
But I didn't get tired of that.
No.
At all.
No, because they always had their reasons.
Yeah, and it felt very logical.
And then they would just like come back together like,
Yeah.
Oh, and one thing I can't help but think about when, sort of along with her taking all the pictures, she also continuously changes her name, like her contact info in his phone. And you can't help but compare that to Mist and Fury and Rhys making Feyre write all of those sentences, like Rhysand is the most handsome High Lord. I was instantly brought there.
It's so cute.
And I'm like, she is a little bit
Rhys,
yeah. She's just she has that quality of like, and I think Aelin has this too, of like knowing that they're like kind of the shit.
The cockiness of it.
The little cockiness, yeah. And I love that about her. And that little, I took it as a connection, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's it's written similarly.
And at first, like the first few times, it like really pisses him off. And he hates it. And then eventually, like, it's
endearing to him. Yeah.
He's like, oh, she's so funny.
Yeah, exactly.
He loves her. Oh, one of my favorite, at the very end, is when he's trying to revive her.
Yeah.
And bring her back to life. I love how they took turns of literally dying.
Oh,
and then tried to bring the other one back. How sweet. But now it's her turn. She's dying. And he's trying to revive her. And before, when she was trying to bring him back, she was trying to convince him to come back by, like, saying what we think is 3 words of, like, I love you.
Yeah.
And then so when he's trying to bring her back, he calls her a fucking coward. Yeah. And says, come say it to my face. And then the first thing she says when she wakes up, she looks him dead in the eye and she goes, did you just call me a fucking coward?
Yes, I love... Good.
I don't know. I loved that. I laughed out loud.
It's just so their relationship.
Yeah, that was definitely one of my tops.
One of mine was, it's sad, but it's when we finally get the story of what happened with Bryce and Danica.
Oh, yeah.
That was so great. And obviously we had to learn that at the end because of what happens. But again, just such great writing and tying it all together to make it all make sense. And you learn everything at once. And it's, when it could be overwhelming, it's like, oh, yes. It's like such a great buildup. It's awesome.
Yeah, once it all starts connecting.
Exactly. Oh, I just pulled on my thingy.
And then that's when you learn, like, oh, their phrase wasn't just like a random phrase they made up.
Light it up is my favorite quote of all time, I think.
I love it.
Because, right, it means so many different things having to do with this story. Obviously, there's one obvious thing that we don't learn right until the end. But it's so good. I want to say it all the time. I love it. I might get it tattooed on me.
I love it.
Somewhere. I love it.
So cute.
It's a great quote. Great saying, like, great phrase.
Yeah, and I like that they would just, like, it ended up being such a casual thing for them. That she now gets to, again, say.
Yeah.
And, like, use, because she finally embraced that part of herself.
Right.
That she's been running from and hiding the whole time.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Oh shit, it's already been an hour. I feel,
that's crazy.
I know. I feel like I could do a whole episode on, we should maybe just do a part 2.
That's what I was saying.
Because I want to talk about Danica. We've only talked about Bryce and Hunt.
Because I love Bryce.
Me too, but I'm
obsessed.
I'm dying to talk about Danica, and that can't just be a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So we might need to.
Danica.
Well, let's wrap up our favorite moments. Are there any? I know you feel a totally different type of way.
I just feel
I'm on team. She had to do what she had to do to protect her friend and her pack, and she had so much riding on her shoulders. Anyway, let's talk about
why
this.
did she go into it all if she knew it would hurt the people in her life?
Well, she was trying to keep it from hurting the people in her life, like it is, like Bryce is literally doing now.
And it's Danica's fault.
No. She's trying to change the world.
She's trying to change.
She literally thought it was her destiny. Okay, no, let's do part 2.
Okay.
Because I would talk about this for a long time, and I want to talk about all the other characters we meet.
Yeah, we didn't. I want to talk about how sad I am about Connor.
Yeah, exactly. Ethan and Connor and Danica.
He was in like 5 fucking pages.
I know.
Why does this always happen
because
to me?
I mean, but then you get, okay, no, because then you get so much Ethan in the second book. That's the whole thing. It's just like, okay, no. I was going to say, it's just like Jacob, and then that's going to start us off on a whole thing.
That's why I'm sad.
Okay. I'm sorry you're sad, but we get a lot of Ethan in the second book. Yeah. We love him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Team Ethan, if that makes any difference. Just being himself.
Just
just
being alive.
Love him.
You know, he's cute.
But
he is
we have
Jacob
to talk about
to me.
We haven't even mentioned Leheba at all.
I know.
Juniper, Fury, all of them. So
Fury.
But I think this was a fun little Bryce Hunt chat /
We
also
love them.
Do we have any more favorite moments or like any references to ACOTAR or Throne of Glass or things that reminded you of it? Things you liked?
I think they felt yeah, there's parts of it that felt as I don't know if anything will ever be recent favorite for me, but I think these are definitely, they will be a close second. And I think parts of it that there's parts of it I ended up enjoying even more because we got Hunt's POV in it.
Yeah, totally.
Which
I agree.
we didn't get with Reese.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly.
But I think that was it ended up feeling for a purpose because then chapter 54 wouldn't have been so as good.
Sure. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. This just, I think this.
Getting his side of it too felt.
No, it was great.
Lovely.
Yeah, I like that they're sort of equal in that, but without him being too obsessed. Too obsessed. Because I don't like that.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like that he's still real with her. Like he's not.
Yeah. And he's always like, okay, I gotta go to work.
Exactly.
Bye.
He's not just we covered all of my little my thoughts on this world, amongst the rest of the mass verse, the balance of humor and heavy. Oh yeah, I was talking about that with like Bryce and Hunt specifically, but the whole book had a lot of like lighthearted, kind of funny moments.
And there's parts of it
Funny
that
characters.
could be even funnier because it's modern.
Right. Yeah. That balancing out the real heaviness of this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's like immediate heaviness because her best friend died.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the previous series, of course they're going through something terrible, but it's almost like it's so overwhelming because it's so far out of their reaches of the main characters anyway. That's like, it's going to be a whole quest. But this is a more like intimate, just like she could figure this out at any time.
Yeah.
Of course, there's so much more story to be told, but in terms of this one book, it really felt like a whole, could have been its own book.
And it didn't get big until the very end when we're like, whoa,
God,
what is happening? Like, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, it was insane.
A cool growth. Of
For
like,
sure.
It felt so cool to be invested in this smaller story. And like, it felt so mysterious. And they're trying to solve this mystery and find the murderer. And then people are bouncing off clues, but then that leads them to something else. And then eventually at the end is when you finally learn why you needed to learn all those political things in the beginning.
Exactly.
And then you're like, oh, whoa. And then boom.
It all means something else, and it all it's all pieces to one big puzzle. It's so cool.
Yeah.
One big overarching puzzle.
Yeah.
That has yet to be solved.
Yeah.
For us anyway.
Jeez.
Cool.
So you just want to do part 2 next week?
I think so. I think there's more to say.
Okay.
We just
We
keep.
could always keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. I strayed away from so much as I possibly could for Crescent City. And I'm so relieved that I did and still am. But the main thing I always see is that some people are very indifferent of Hunt sometimes.
Yeah.
And I am confused about that.
Totally. I think he's a great character. I would say, well, I'm not going to compare, but he feels like fully fleshed out. Like, like you said, the fact that he has basically they have a split POV, you get to know so much more of him.
We get to actually feel his trauma.
Yeah.
Because we get his POV a lot.
Yeah.
Of him
because he's reliving it. Yeah.
Yeah, like him second guessing certain things and his thought process.
Yeah. It helps cushion the blow of what happens with him a little bit, but that's still such a shock. But I think it keeps you believing that maybe it could turn itself around. He's
and like that's but that's the thing of like you see them like falling in love and getting closer, but then also learning that this whole time he was also on this other thing with his other friends that had nothing to do with her. And that leads into our thing of like he can't, like, we want you to be obsessed, but like if he's too obsessed then it's not cute.
Yeah.
But like that was such a good distinction of like he was focusing so much on her and this problem and trying to help her, but then we learn all of a sudden like he also was doing this other thing the whole time, and then you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but also Danica was doing that and you hate on her for it.
It's just that I feel really bad every time we learn something else that she lied to Bryce about, and Bryce gets more and more it just keeps happening, and every time I'm like, there's no fucking way there's gonna be another one, and then there always is. And I'm just like kind of shocked every time. I'm like, Danica again.
And again, that definitely puts more weight on Hunt's sort of betrayal.
Yeah,
because she's already been through this with the person that she loved the most, and now
who's already been dead for 2 years, and she's getting betrayed by
and
her.
She's literally just giving herself to him almost, and ready to sort of make be closer to him, I guess.
Yeah.
And then this happens right after that. It's just so terrible.
That's why I think that's why I liked it so much too, is that they're both like very flawed.
Yeah.
And they both do things like throughout the book that they like both keep fucking up or pissing each other off, or like other characters. So
People don't like either of them generally. Yeah, it's cool.
I like that it feels just very natural in that way. Of that, like, doesn't feel like, okay, here's our two main characters and let's watch them fall in love. Like, I love that they both just like keep
a lot of bumps in the road.
Yeah, that's what had kept it so interesting the whole time.
Definitely big fan of these books.
This first one is one of my
tippy toppies. It'll rank very high on my final list.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, cool. So next week we'll chat about some other characters. Maybe if there are any theories that don't involve the second book, maybe we can just think of those. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, because we didn't get to like talk about like the summit and all of that too. I really want to like.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Yay! We're gonna do part 2. Okay.
Great.
Well, we'll chat more next week about CC1.
Yay! Happy 2025.
Wild. Yay. This meeting of the Fan Ghouls Club is adjourned.
What was that? You were you were also like, oh, damn it. We'll get it someday. Maybe in 2026.
Great.